Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahawashi, Bahasham, Brakaha Kodash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. In peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and in this video I'll be profiling an article from RT.com titled Iran Blasts Inhumane U.S. on Anniversary of Hiroshima Bombing Calls for Denuclearization of the World. But according to the scriptures, there will be no denuclearization of the world. It's prophesied for World War III to take place, and it will be a nuclear war. And the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings during World War II were just a appetizer for the main event, that third woe, World War III. I'm going to just read a little bit of this article and skip around and then get into some precepts to show that nuclear war is biblical. The Iranian government called out the United States in a statement commemorating the 76th anniversary of the U.S. nuclear bombing of Hiroshima and called for a world without nuclear weapons. Saeed Khatibzadeh, a spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry, declared on Saturday that the bombing of Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, showed the world that the U.S. spares no inhumane efforts and acts to achieve its illegitimate and irrational objectives. And that's a true statement. Khatibzadeh said the commemoration of the victims of this tragedy reminds the world of the need to seriously pursue and realize the lofty ideal of a world free of nuclear weapons, before arguing that the ominous shadow and constant threat of such arms always endanger international peace and security. Iran, which does not itself possess nuclear weapons, also criticized the U.S. for modernizing their weapons and upgrading the status of nuclear arms in their military security doctrine instead of attempting to denuclearize. And it's not just the U.S. modernizing their nuclear arsenal, but you've got other nations like Russia and China doing the same. It's the Most High putting the spirit on these heathen nations to build back up their nuclear arsenals to eventually shoot those nukes at each other during World War III. And now I'm going to jump to this paragraph right here. 5 nuclear weapons holding countries are signed up to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, or the NPT, which commits them to preventing other nations from possessing nuclear weaponry. These include the U.S., the United Kingdom, France, China, and Russia. North Korea, India, and Pakistan also possess nuclear weapons, and it is highly suspected that Israel does too, despite its refusal to confirm or deny any possession or testing thereof. That's it with this article, you get the point. But there will be no denuclearization. Nuclear war will happen, and it's going to take place during this upcoming third woe. These nuclear missiles that these different heathen nations have created weren't just created to stay in a museum. They were created for a purpose. This is Revelation chapter 9, verse 12. One woe or destruction is past, referring to World War I. And behold, there come 2 woes more hereafter. World War II, which is past, and saw the first use of nuclear weapons with those 2 atomic bombs dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and the third woe, which is coming quickly, World War III, which will be nuclear. This is 2 Peter chapter 3, I'm going to start at verse 10. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. And that thing that's going to melt the elements with fervent heat and burn up the works in the earth are those nuclear missiles being shot to the ends of the earth. Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness? And this is speaking to the hopeful elect. What manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness? You should have all 10 toes down in this truth, being diligent unto your power, Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, and pushing this word as hard as you possibly can, hastening for this day to come, hastening for these nuclear missiles to be shot to the ends of the earth during the third woe, because we know that when Yahweh Shai Hamashiach, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus Christ, makes his second coming to save his elect, and those nuclear missiles are shot to the ends of the earth during World War III, that's the end of this current age of the rulership of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites, or the so-called white people, before the ushering in of the kingdom of heaven, where the true children of Israel, who are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, beginning with the elect, shall rule in the kingdom of heaven for eternity. As it says in verse 12, looking for and hastening unto the coming of the day of the Most High. We should be hastening for these times, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The fervent heat of those nuclear missiles being shot to the ends of the earth. This is Joel chapter 2. I'm going to start at verse 1. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain, which is exactly what the true men of the Lord, the prophets of the Most High, chiefly through GMS or Great Millstone, are doing, going out onto the highways and byways, as well as putting up video epistles like this, blowing that spiritual alarm unto the nation of Israel, beginning with the elect, telling them of the terrible times to come and what they need to do to stay in the good graces of their power, Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, so they can be saved from them, and blowing the trumpet unto 2/3 of the nation of Israel, who are hard-headed and refuse to return unto their power, telling them what their judgment is, along with the judgment of you heathen nations, chiefly you Edomites, for all the wickedness that you've been committing on this planet. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of Yahweh cometh, for it is nigh at hand. And if you've got that spiritual eyesight, you can clearly see that the day of Yahweh is nigh at hand. A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong. There hath not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. And that great people and a strong is referring to those nuclear missiles. And where it says there had not been ever the like, that's referring to these nuclear weapons coming about very recently, beginning with those 2 atomic bombs dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima during the second woe, World War II. And where it says neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. When these nations shoot those nuclear missiles, they're going to use every last one of them. And then after the dust settles, they won't have a chance to rebuild their nuclear arsenals or any of their other military assets, because the elect, those 144,000 Superman hunters led by Yahweh Shai Hamashiach, are going to begin enslaving you heathen nations so you can build up the kingdom of heaven, and we're not going to allow you to build any more weapons of war. Verse 3, a fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. That fire that devoureth before them is that the head of the nuclear missile filled with those warheads, and the flame that burneth behind them is talking about the rocket booster on the back of those missiles. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them. Before those nuclear warheads detonate, the land looks normal. You've got cities and people and forests and animals and life going on as normal. And behind them, a desolate wilderness. After those nuclear missiles hit their targets and detonate, the land is turned into a wasteland, like those Mad Max movies or those Fallout video games. Yeah, and nothing shall escape them. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen, so shall they run. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. And what you have to remember is that when the prophets saw these visions thousands of years ago, they didn't know what a modern day nuclear missile was, so they described it the best way they could with what they knew during their times. Ancient weapons of war, like horses and horsemen, chariots, swords, spears, bows and arrows, javelins, etc., etc. Everything in the scriptures is pretty much parabolic. Verse 6, before their face the people shall be much pained. All faces shall gather blackness, or ash, or soot. People getting burned up by those nuclear missiles. They shall run like mighty men. They shall climb the wall like men of war, and they shall march, everyone on his ways, and they shall not break their ranks. Neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk, every one in his path. When those nuclear missiles are fired to the ends of the earth, the Spirit of the Most High is going to be on those nuclear missiles, guiding them to their targets, which they're going to hit without any problems. And when they shall fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. And that sword is referring to those anti-missile defense systems, which are going to fail in that day, because the Most High Spirit is also going to be on those anti-missile defense systems to fail. And the one nation that's going to get the most smoke from these nuclear missiles is the United States of America, which is biblically known as Babylon the Great. And it's really a fitting end for it. America was the first nation to use atomic weapons, and it's going to be the last nation to be completely wiped out by nuclear weapons during that third woe. Now I'm going to close it out in Isaiah chapter 13. I'm going to start at verse 19. And Babylon, Babylon the Great, the virgin daughter of Babylon, Mystery Babylon, the United States of America. And you can go to Psalms 137, start at about verse 7 to see that the Edomites are synonymous with the daughter of Babylon. The glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. And how did the Most High overthrow ancient Sodom and Gomorrah? With fire and brimstone from the sky. And besides being known as Babylon the Great in the scriptures, the United States of America is known as spiritual Sodom and Egypt, as pursuant to Revelation 11 verse 8. So the Most High is going to overthrow this modern day Sodom and Gomorrah with modern fire and brimstone from the sky, 200 million nuclear missiles, which is not only going to turn it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, but as it says in verse 20, it shall never be inhabited. It's going to be turned into a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland. Neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there. Neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. No man, woman, or child will ever set foot on this place ever again. It's going to become the real-life forbidden zone. And only desert creatures are going to dwell here after a time, as it says in verse 21. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. And the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. And her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. And the time of the destruction of Babylon the Great, or the United States of America, is very near to come. The day of Yahweh is nigh at hand. And the only thing the United States of America, Babylon the Great, is going to be remembered for after this nuclear destruction is it's going to stand as an eternal memorial as to what a wicked kingdom looked like, how not to govern the earth, and what the judgment and punishment is for afflicting the apple of the Most High's eye, the children of Israel, who are again the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. So that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere Akim were edified. Just keep strong and keep pushing this word. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.